The doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft whisper. Jiho walked through them, her heart beating fast inside her chest. She wore the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, dark blue with silver trim. Behind her walked 3 other humans, all carrying data tablets and wearing nervous smiles. This was the moment humanity had waited for. After 30 years of sending messages into space, after decades of proving they were peaceful and smart, Earth was finally getting a chance to join the galactic community. The chamber was enormous. Jiho had seen pictures, but nothing prepared her for the real thing. The ceiling stretched so high she could barely see it. Around the circular room sat delegates from 200 different species. Some looked like giant insects. Others seemed to be made of liquid light. There were beings with tentacles, beings with fur, beings that floated in the air without any visible means of support. The sight was overwhelming and beautiful. A tall reptilian creature stood up from the central podium. His scales were deep green and his eyes were golden. He raised one clawed hand in greeting. The translation device in Jiho's ear crackled to life. His voice came through clear and formal. "Welcome, Ambassador Jiho of Earth. I am Counselor Vexthor. On behalf of the Galactic Council, we greet you and your people. Today we hear your application for membership in our community." Jiho bowed respectfully. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times. "Thank you, Counselor. It is an honor to be here. Humanity comes in peace and friendship. We bring our knowledge, our creativity, and our desire to learn from the great civilizations gathered here." The presentation went smoothly. Jiho showed images of Earth's art and music. She shared human philosophy and literature. She talked about humanity's recent achievements in technology and science. The council members listened politely. Some took notes. Others whispered to their neighbors. Everything seemed to be going well. Then came the routine part of the process. Every species that applied for council membership had to go through a background check. It was a formality, really. The council just needed to verify that Earth was where humans said it was, and that there were no outstanding legal issues or ancient territorial disputes. A small, gray being with enormous eyes approached a console at the side of the chamber. This was one of the librarians, the species responsible for maintaining the council's archives. The librarian's thin fingers danced across the holographic interface. He input Earth's coordinates. He cross-referenced the stellar catalog. He searched the historical database. Jiho watched with mild interest. She expected this to take maybe 5 minutes. It was just paperwork after all. The librarian's 3 eyes suddenly went wide. All 3 of them. His fingers froze over the console. A small chirping sound came from his throat, something the translator couldn't interpret. Around the chamber, viewing screens lit up in front of each delegate. Information began appearing on them. The reaction was immediate and shocking. An insectoid delegate jumped back from her screen so hard she fell off her seat. A being made of crystalline material actually cracked, pieces falling to the floor. The delegate from the water-world species started making a sound like boiling liquid. All around the chamber, panic spread like wildfire. Counselor Vexthor stared at his screen. His golden eyes grew wider and wider. His clawed hands gripped the podium so hard that the metal bent. He looked up at Jiho, and for the first time since the meeting started, his diplomatic mask slipped. What Jiho saw underneath was pure primal fear. "This cannot be right," Vexthor said, his voice shaking. "Librarian, confirm these findings. Run the search again." The small gray being nodded frantically. His fingers flew across the console even faster than before. He ran the search a second time, then a third. Each time the same information appeared on the screens. Each time more delegates reacted with visible terror. Jiho felt her stomach tighten. Something was very wrong. She glanced at Minho, one of her assistants. He looked just as confused as she felt. They had expected questions about Earth's technology level, or maybe concerns about humanity's history of warfare. They had prepared answers for those topics, but this was something else entirely. "Counselor Vexithor," Jiho said carefully. "Is there a problem?" The reptilian being looked at her like she had just asked if the sun was hot. He touched his screen and made a gesture. Jiho's own tablet lit up. The translation matrix worked to convert the ancient script into modern English. The words that appeared made no sense to her at first. Death World Omega-7, Quarantine Zone, Forbidden Sector, Warning, Extreme Danger, Do Not Approach, Apex Predator Classification Level 10. I don't understand, Jiho said honestly. There must be some mistake. Earth is our home. Yes, it can be dangerous sometimes, but we manage just fine. A delegate from the back of the chamber, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish, spoke up. His voice came through the translator as high and frightened. You live there? You actually live on that world? How is that possible? Before Jiho could answer, another delegate interrupted. This one was covered in feathers and had 4 arms. The records say that planet was marked forbidden 3 million years ago. The precursors themselves put up the warning. How did you get past the quarantine? What quarantine? Jiho asked. There was no quarantine. No warning beacons, nothing. We've been living there for hundreds of thousands of years. The chamber fell silent. Every single delegate stared at the humans. Jiho suddenly felt very small and very exposed. She could see it in their eyes, in their body language, in the way they leaned away from her. They were afraid, not concerned, not worried, genuinely terrified. Counselor Vexathor spoke again, and this time his voice was barely above a whisper. Ambassador Jiho, I need you to answer a question honestly. How many humans are there? About 12 billion, Jiho replied. Why? The number sent another wave of shock through the chamber. Several delegates actually fled, leaving their seats and hurrying toward the exits. The librarian made that chirping sound again, louder this time. Vexthor closed his golden eyes for a long moment. When he opened them again, he looked like someone who had just received terrible news. This council is in recess. Ambassador Jiho, you and your delegation will remain here as our guests. We need time to review these findings. Please do not leave the diplomatic quarters. We will reconvene when we have more information. He stood up and walked away before Jiho could ask any more questions. Around the chamber, other delegates followed. Within minutes, the great hall was empty except for the 4 humans standing confused in the center. Minho moved closer to Jiho. What just happened? He whispered. Jiho looked down at her tablet, at the ancient warning still glowing on the screen. I have absolutely no idea, she said, but I think we just scared the entire galaxy. The emergency session began 6 hours later. Jiho and her team had spent that time in their assigned quarters, a comfortable suite designed to accommodate many different species. They had tried to rest, but nobody could sleep. Instead, they reviewed everything they knew about Earth, trying to figure out what could have caused such a reaction. When the summons came, only the senior council members were present. Instead of 200 delegates, there were maybe 20. These were the oldest beings in the galaxy, the ones who had lived for centuries or even millennia. They sat in a smaller, more private chamber. The walls were lined with data storage devices that hummed softly. Counselor Vexthor looked like he had aged 100 years in just a few hours. His scales had lost some of their shine. His golden eyes were tired. He gestured for Jiho to sit, and she did, feeling more nervous than she had during the first meeting. Ambassador, Vexathor began slowly. We have spent the last hours reviewing records that have not been opened in 3 million years. What we found is deeply troubling. We need you to understand the situation before we continue. He touched a control and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed a star map, ancient and detailed. One star system was marked in red, surrounded by warning symbols. Jiho recognized it immediately. That was Sol. That was home. This is how the precursors marked your world, Vexthor explained. The precursors were the first great civilization in this galaxy. They explored everything, mapped everything, made contact with thousands of species. They were wise and powerful beyond anything we can imagine today. And they marked your world as forbidden. Another council member spoke up. This one was an elderly being covered in silver fur. Her voice was gentle but sad. We found their expedition report. The precursors sent a science team to your world approximately 3.2 million years ago. They wanted to study it because the life readings were so unusual, so diverse, so aggressive. The holographic display changed. It now showed images that looked like they came from an old, damaged recording. Jiho could see Earth, but Earth from millions of years ago. The continents were in different positions. Strange creatures walked the land. Huge beasts that no longer existed. The expedition landed in what you now call Africa. The silver-furred counselor continued. They spent 3 days collecting samples and making observations. On the 4th day, they encountered the dominant species of that region. The image shifted again. Jiho gasped. The recording showed humans, Primitive humans, yes, barely clothed and carrying simple stone tools, but definitely human. They looked so much like modern people that it was shocking. Your ancestors, Vexthor said quietly. The precursors made careful notes about them. Let me read you the relevant section. He pulled up a document and began to read. His voice was steady, but Jiho could hear the underlying fear in it. Subject species displays unprecedented endurance capability. Pursuit hunting methodology observed. Subjects tracked prey animal for distance exceeding 40 kilometers. Ambient temperature 38 degrees. Subject species showed no signs of exhaustion. Prey animal, a quadruped of significant size and speed, collapsed from heat exhaustion after 2 hours. Subject species then killed and processed it with primitive tools. Jiho frowned. That's just persistence hunting. It's how early humans got food.
What's wrong with that?
The council members looked at each other. Another one, a being that seemed to be made of flowing liquid, spoke up. Ambassador, the prey animal they described? We matched it to fossil records. It was fast enough to outrun any predator on 90% of known worlds. It had endurance that would shame most galactic species, and your ancestors ran it to death in the heat. The precursors were fascinated and horrified, Vexthor added.
They decided to observe your ancestors more closely.
They followed one hunting party at a safe distance. This is where the report becomes difficult to read. The holographic display showed more of the ancient recording. The precursor expedition team was following the human hunters. Everything seemed fine at first. Then something went wrong. The humans stopped. They turned around. They had noticed they were being followed. The precursors were using their best stealth technology. The silver-furred counselor explained. Technology far beyond what anyone has today. But your ancestors noticed them anyway. And then something happened that the precursors never expected. In the recording, the primitive humans started walking toward the hidden precursor observation team. Not running. Just walking. The precursors panicked and ran. Their ship was several kilometers away. They thought they could easily outpace the primitive humans. Vexthor's voice was grim. The precursors ran for 3 days. They barely stopped to rest. They used every trick they knew to lose their pursuers. Your ancestors just kept walking, always behind them, never stopping, never losing the trail. The precursors made it back to their ship with less than an hour to spare. 4 members of the expedition team collapsed from exhaustion. One died. Jiho felt a chill run down her spine. They chased the precursors for 3 days. Why? The report speculates they saw the precursors as a threat to their territory, the liquid being said. Or perhaps they were simply curious. The reason doesn't matter. What matters is that your ancestors, with nothing but Stone Age technology in their own bodies, hunted the most advanced species in the galaxy for 3 days without stopping. The holographic display showed the final log entry from the precursor expedition. The text was shaky, as if whoever wrote it was terrified. Vexthor read it aloud. Recommendation: quarantine this world immediately. The dominant species is unlike anything we have encountered. They do not stop. They do not tire. They do not give up. They use endurance as a weapon. If this species ever develops advanced technology and leaves their world, they will be unstoppable. Mark this world as Death World Omega 7. Forbid all contact. Let nature take its course and hope that extinction events prevent this species from surviving long enough to reach the stars. The chamber fell silent. Jiho didn't know what to say. That was her ancestors. That was humanity, 3 million years ago. She thought about marathon runners, about people who hiked across continents, about explorers who crossed oceans in tiny boats, about astronauts who spent months in space just to see what was there. The precursors had been right to be afraid. Humans didn't stop. It was one of their defining characteristics. Another council member, one with multiple tentacles and kind eyes, spoke softly. There is more, Ambassador. The precursors did not just study your ancestors. They studied your world itself. The report on your planet's environment is almost as frightening as the report on your species. A new document appeared. This one was labeled Planetary Analysis Death World Omega 7. Jiho started reading, and with each line, she understood more of the Council's fear. The report described Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere. It noted that oxygen was highly corrosive and toxic to most galactic species. It described Earth's weather systems, the violent storms and temperature swings that would kill most life forms. It detailed the tectonic activity, the volcanoes and earthquakes that reshaped the continents. It listed the extinction events, the times when most of Earth's life had been wiped out, only to evolve back stronger and more dangerous. Your world has experienced 5 major extinction events, Vexthor said. Each one killed more than 70% of all life on the planet. On any other world, that would have been the end. But on Earth, life just adapted and came back. Stronger, more diverse, more aggressive. The silver-furred counselor added. The precursors noted something they called competitive evolution. Your world is so hostile that every species has to fight constantly just to survive. Predators became better at hunting. Prey became better at escaping. Everything evolved to be faster, stronger, more efficient. For millions of years, this continued. And humans? Humans evolved right in the middle of it all. Jiho looked at the ancient reports and slowly understanding dawned. Earth wasn't a normal world. It was a nightmare planet where only the toughest species survived. And humanity had not just survived. They had thrived. They had become the apex predator of a world full of apex predators. You're saying Earth made us dangerous? Jiho said quietly. Vexthor nodded. Your world made you into the most efficient survivors in the galaxy. And now you are here.
You have technology.
You have spacecraft. You have left your quarantine world and come to us asking to join our community. You must understand our concern. Jiho did understand. She looked around at the gathered council members, at their aged faces filled with worry and fear. They had every reason to be afraid. Humanity had survived and conquered the deadliest world in known space. What would they do among the stars? The full council reconvened the next day, but the atmosphere had completely changed. Where before there had been curiosity and polite interest, now there was tension and fear. Delegates sat as far from the human section as possible. Armed security personnel, something Jiho had not seen during the first meeting, lined the walls. The message was clear. The council was afraid. Councillor Vexthor called the session to order. His voice was firm, but Jiho could hear the strain in it. Ambassador Jiho, this council requires additional information about humanity before we can proceed with your membership application. We need honest answers to our questions. Will you cooperate? Of course, Jiho replied. She had spent all night preparing with her team, but she still felt uncertain. What could she possibly say to ease their fears? Vexthor asked his first question. How many humans currently exist? Approximately 12 billion on Earth, Jiho answered. Another 200,000 in colonies throughout our solar system. We have permanent settlements on our moon, on Mars, and on several moons of our outer planets. A wave of whispers spread through the chamber. One delegate, a being that looked like a walking plant, spoke up in a trembling voice. 12 billion apex predators, and you are still expanding? Jiho nodded, not understanding why this was shocking. Yes, humanity has always been exploratory. We like to see new places, discover new things. It's part of our nature. Another counselor, this one covered in thick blue fur, asked the next question. Your species developed faster than light travel approximately 15 years ago. How long did it take you to go from basic spaceflight to FTL capability? Minho, who was better with technical details, answered this one. About 70 years. We launched our first satellite in the mid-20th century. Our first manned space mission came a few years later. We had permanent space stations within 50 years. FTL took another 20 years of development after that. The council chamber exploded in noise. Delegates shouted to each other in dozens of different languages. The translation matrix struggled to keep up. Vexthor had to call for order 3 times before the chamber quieted down. 70 years? Asked a crystalline delegate, her voice high with disbelief. My species took 8,000 years to achieve the same progress. How is this possible? Jiho tried to explain. Humans are naturally curious. We have a strong drive to explore and understand. When we set our minds to something, we don't give up until we achieve it. Space exploration has been a dream of humanity for centuries. What Jiho meant as a simple explanation seemed to terrify the council even more. An elderly delegate who looked like a floating collection of glowing orbs spoke softly. You don't give up, just like your ancestors who chased the precursors for 3 days. This is a species trait? I suppose so, Jiho admitted. Humans value persistence. We teach our children to keep trying, to never quit. It's considered a positive trait in our culture. Vexthor leaned forward. Ambassador, I need to ask something that may seem strange. What do humans consider normal weather? Jiho blinked at the odd question. Normal weather? Well, it depends on where you live. In temperate zones, Temperatures range from about -20 to +40 degrees Celsius across the year. We get rain regularly, sometimes snow. Occasional storms, why? The silver-furred counselor from the previous meeting raised one paw. -20 degrees would freeze most galactic species solid within minutes. 40 degrees would cause fatal overheating in an hour. And you call this normal? You live in this? Well, yes, Jiho said, confused. We just wear appropriate clothing. Humans can adapt to pretty much any climate on Earth. We live at the equator where it's very hot. We live in Arctic regions where it's very cold. We live in deserts and jungles on mountains near oceans. Humans are very adaptable. She meant this as a point of pride. The council heard it as a threat assessment. Minho, trying to help, decided to show the council some media from Earth. He thought maybe if they saw human culture, human art, human kindness, they would be less afraid. He pulled up his tablet and began playing a video presentation. This is content we prepared to show humanity's gentler side, Minho explained. These are videos of humans caring for animals, protecting nature, showing compassion. The first video showed a wildlife rehabilitation center. Humans in the video were treating injured animals, nursing them back to health and releasing them into the wild. Minho smiled as he narrated. This shows how much humans care about other species. We spend enormous resources protecting endangered animals. But the council wasn't seeing what Minho intended. A delegate from an aquatic species pointed at the screen with a trembling tentacle. That creature in the human's hands, what is it? That's a crocodile, Minho said. This particular one was injured and the humans are treating its wounds. A crocodile, the aquatic delegate repeated slowly, an apex predator with jaws strong enough to crush bone. And the human is holding it, with bare hands. While it is conscious, Minho's smile faded. Well, yes, but they're trained professionals and the crocodile has been calmed. The next video showed marine biologists tagging sharks. Humans in wetsuits swam alongside the massive fish, attaching tracking devices to study their migration patterns. One researcher was shown actually touching a great white shark, one of Earth's largest predatory fish. The council watched in stunned silence. Finally, Vexthor spoke. Those creatures, the sharks, how dangerous are they? Great white sharks are apex predators, Jiho admitted. They can grow up to 6 meters long and weigh 2 tons. They have multiple rows of teeth and are very efficient hunters. And humans swim with them? Asked the insectoid counselor. For science? Yes, Jiho said. We want to understand them better. We want to protect them. Many shark species are endangered because of overfishing. You hunt them and then protect them? Another delegate asked, thoroughly confused. We stopped hunting most of them, Minho explained. We realized we were damaging the ocean ecosystem. Now we protect them instead. That's what humans do. We learn from our mistakes and try to fix them. But the council wasn't comforted. They were watching humans treat Earth's deadliest creatures like pets. The next video showed a man rescuing a bear cub from a trap. The video after that showed a woman swimming with wild dolphins. Then came footage of a ranger relocating a venomous snake. Each video, meant to show human compassion, instead showed humans casually interacting with creatures that would be considered terrifying monsters on most worlds. A young counselor from a peaceful herbivore species stood up suddenly. Stop, please stop the videos. His voice was shaking. That last creature, the one with 8 legs. What was that? A tarantula, Minho said. A type of spider. That video shows a human carefully moving one out of her house without harming it. How big do these spiders get? The young counselor asked. That one? About the size of a human hand. Some species get a bit bigger. The young counselor sat down heavily. The deadliest predator on my world is smaller than my finger. You have spiders the size of hands that live in your houses. Chiho was beginning to understand the problem. Things that humans considered normal, even harmless, were nightmare fuel for the rest of the galaxy. She thought about her own childhood. She had grown up near mountains. She had hiked through forests. She had swum in lakes. She had seen bears and wolves and snakes. And she had never thought twice about it because that was just normal life on Earth. Hyun-woo, another member of the human delegation, tried to help. He was a zoologist and thought maybe some education would ease tensions. Counselors, I think there's a misunderstanding. Most of Earth's animals are not dangerous if you know how to behave around them. Humans coexist with nature. We even keep some animals as companions. Companions? Vexthor asked carefully. Yes, pets, Hyun-woo said cheerfully. I had dogs growing up. Many humans do. Dogs, Vexthor repeated. Please describe a dog. Hyunwoo pulled up a picture of his childhood pet, a large golden retriever. This is a dog. They're descended from wolves, which were apex predators. We domesticated them thousands of years ago. Now they live in our homes as family members. They're very loyal and loving. Excellent companions, especially for children. The council stared at the image. Vexthor examined it carefully. This animal weighs approximately 30 kilograms. It has powerful jaws, sharp teeth. You said it is descended from pack hunters? Yes, but they're friendly, Hyunwoo insisted. Dogs love humans. They protect us, play with us, sleep in our beds. Every human child knows about dogs. Vexthor slowly pulled up his own tablet. He showed an image to the council. This is the apex predator from my homeworld, the most feared creature on my planet. The image showed a small ferret-like animal. It was maybe 5 kilograms in weight. Then he put the image of Hyunwoo's dog next to it. The size difference was dramatic. The dog was 6 times larger. Humans keep predators larger than our world's apex predators as pets, Vexthor said quietly. They sleep with them in their homes. They let their children play with them. The reality of the situation crashed down on Jiho. Earth wasn't just dangerous. It was catastrophically dangerous compared to the rest of the galaxy. And humans who had evolved there, who had conquered every environment on that death world, had no idea how terrifying they appeared to everyone else. Counselor Vexthor called for another recess. This time the council members didn't even pretend to be calm. They fled the chamber in obvious panic. Jiho watched them go, feeling helpless and confused. Everything humanity had done to try to appear peaceful and friendly had somehow made things worse. In the private chambers reserved for the council leadership, an emergency meeting was taking place. Military advisors from a dozen different species crowded around holographic displays. Defense ministers across the galaxy were receiving urgent communications. Fleet commanders were putting their ships on alert. All because 4 humans had showed up and accidentally terrified everyone. One military advisor, a tall being with gray skin and large black eyes, was reviewing tactical assessments. If we assume hostile intent, how long before humans could pose a significant threat? A strategic analyst responded grimly. Their technology is already impressive for such a young species. They developed FTL in 70 years. If they maintain that pace of advancement, they could match our military capabilities within a century. Perhaps sooner. Should we consider a preemptive quarantine? Asked another advisor. Blockade their system before they can expand further? Vexthor, who was listening to all of this, raised one clawed hand. Wait, everyone stop and think for a moment. His voice was tired but firm. We are talking about going to war with a species that has done nothing wrong. They applied for council membership, following all proper procedures. They have been completely honest with us. They came in peace. They came from a death world, the military advisor argued, the most dangerous death world ever recorded. And they don't even realize how dangerous they are. That makes them even more unpredictable. Or, Vexthor said slowly, it makes them exactly what they appear to be, a peaceful species that happens to come from a harsh environment. He pulled up the videos that Minho had shown earlier, the ones of humans caring for injured animals. Look at these again. Really look at them. Yes, humans are physically capable. Yes, they are tough and persistent. But look at what they choose to do with those capabilities. They rescue animals. They protect endangered species. They spend resources healing creatures that cannot help them in return. The silver-furred counselor who had joined the emergency session nodded thoughtfully. He's right. I've been reviewing all the communications we've received from Earth over the past 30 years. Humans have been nothing but patient and polite. They could have forced contact. They had FTL capability 15 years ago. They could have shown up unannounced anywhere in the galaxy. Instead, they sent formal requests and waited for permission. Another counselor, the one made of liquid, spoke up. We need more information. We're making decisions based on fear and ancient warnings. Let's talk to them directly. Ask them real questions. Try to understand them as they actually are, not as the precursors feared they might become. After hours of debate, the council leadership made a decision. They would meet with the humans privately in a smaller setting and have an honest conversation. No formal protocols, no diplomatic masks, just real communication. That evening, Jiho and her team were invited to a private meeting room. Only a handful of council members were present. Vexthor, the silver-furred counselor, the liquid being, and a few others. The atmosphere was still tense but less panicked than before. Vexthor began the conversation. Ambassador Jiho, we owe you an explanation for our reaction. But first we need to ask you something directly. Does humanity have any idea how unusual your world is? Jiho shook her head. Until yesterday we thought Earth was normal. We knew other planets would be different, but we assumed the basic conditions would be similar. Atmosphere, gravity, temperature ranges. We had no idea we were living on what you call a death world. Tell me about Earth's gravity, Vexthor said. What do you consider normal? 9.8 meters per second squared, Minho answered. Why? The silver-furred counselor made a sad sound. The galactic average is 6.2. Your world's gravity is 58% higher than what most species evolved under. Walking on your world would exhaust most of us within minutes. Hyunwoo looked shocked. That's why you all seem so fragile. You didn't evolve under heavy gravity. Your bones, your muscles, they're built for easier conditions. Exactly, Vexthor confirmed. And that's just one example. Your atmosphere is 21% oxygen. The average is 14%. Your oxygen is literally toxic to most species in high concentrations. Your temperature ranges would kill most galactic life. Your weather patterns are violent beyond anything on peaceful worlds. Jiho sat back in her chair processing this information. So Earth made us strong. Strong enough to survive conditions that would kill most other species. Yes, the liquid counselor said gently. But it also made you adaptable, persistent, and creative. Those are not bad traits. They are actually quite valuable. The problem is that we're afraid of what happens when you combine those traits with advanced technology and the ability to travel to other worlds. There was a long silence. Finally, Jiho spoke. You think we'll be aggressive. You think we'll conquer and destroy. The possibility exists, Vexthor admitted. Every species that has tried to project military power across the galaxy has caused suffering. And none of those species came from a world like yours. Minho leaned forward. May I show you something? At Vexthor's nod, he pulled up his tablet. This is Earth's history. We're not hiding anything. Yes, humans have fought wars. We've had conflicts and violence, but look at the trend. He displayed a graph showing human conflicts over time. War has been decreasing. For the past 100 years, major conflicts have become rare. We've developed international cooperation, human rights, peace treaties. We've learned that cooperation is better than conflict. We made mistakes, Jiho added. Terrible mistakes. We nearly destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. We damaged our environment. We caused species to go extinct. But we learned from those mistakes. We're trying to do better. That's why we want to join the council. We want to learn from species that have already figured out how to live in peace. Hyunwoo pulled up another image. This is what we've done with our technology recently. This is the Great Barrier Reef Restoration Project. This is the Amazon Reforestation Program. This is the Global Clean Energy Initiative. Humans are using our capabilities to heal our world, not destroy it. The council members looked at the images in silence. They showed massive projects, huge expenditures of resources and effort, all dedicated to fixing environmental damage and protecting life. The silver-furred counselor spoke softly. You chose to heal rather than harm. We had to, Jiho said simply. Earth is our home. If we destroyed it, where would we go? We only have one planet. We had to learn to take care of it. Vexthor was quiet for a long time. He seemed to be struggling with something. Finally, he spoke. Let me show you something now. Something that may help you understand our situation. He pulled up a star map. Several systems were marked in red. These are the contested reaches. This region of space is controlled by the Krell, a warrior species. They raid peaceful worlds, take resources, and refuse all diplomatic contact. They respect only strength. Why don't you stop them? Minho asked. Because we can't, Vexthor admitted. The council is composed mostly of species from gentle worlds. We evolved as prey animals, as peaceful herbivores, as beings that avoided conflict. We have defense fleets, but they're not very effective against species that evolved as predators. We've tried 3 times to negotiate peace with the Krell. Each time they laughed at us and continued their raids. The liquid counselor added, We need someone who can speak the language of strength, someone the Krell will respect. But we don't have that. We don't know how to be warriors because our worlds never required it. Jiho suddenly understood where this was going. You want humans to deal with the Krell? Possibly, Vexthor said carefully. Not immediately. But we're considering a proposal. What if humanity joined the council in a special role? You would have access to all our technology, trade networks and knowledge. In exchange, you would serve as peacekeepers. When diplomatic solutions fail, when threats emerge that we cannot handle, humans would step in. You want us to be your soldiers? Hyunwoo said, his voice flat. No, the silver-furred counselor said quickly. We want you to be our protectors. There is a difference. Soldiers conquer, protectors defend. We've seen your videos, Ambassador. We've seen how you care for your own world's creatures. We believe you could extend that same care to the galaxy. Minho looked at Jiho. They're asking us to be the thing they're afraid of. The dangerous species from the death world. They're asking us to be ourselves, Jiho corrected. Strong enough to face threats but kind enough to show mercy. It's not a bad role, Minho. It's actually kind of perfect for humanity. Vexthor leaned forward. We're not asking for an answer tonight. Think about it. Discuss it with your government. But know this, the galaxy needs you, not as conquerors, as friends who happen to be very, very good at surviving. 3 months had passed since the Council's proposal. Jiho had returned to Earth, presented the offer to humanity's governments, and facilitated countless discussions about what it meant to be the galaxy's peacekeepers. The debate had been intense. Some people were excited about humanity's chance to help others. Others worried about becoming the very thing the Council feared. In the end, humanity accepted, but they added their own conditions. They would serve as peacekeepers, yes, but they would also share Earth's culture, art, and knowledge freely. They would learn from the Council's peaceful species how to be better, kinder, more thoughtful. It would be a partnership, not just a security arrangement. Now Jiho stood in the Council chamber once more, but the atmosphere was completely different. The fear hadn't entirely disappeared, but it had been joined by something else. Hope, curiosity, cautious optimism. Councillor Vexthor addressed the full assembly. Today we welcome humanity as provisional members of the Galactic Council. Their membership will be reviewed in 5 years based on their actions and contributions to galactic peace. Ambassador Jiho, please step forward. Jiho walked to the center of the chamber. Behind her stood not just her small diplomatic team, but representatives from dozens of human cultures. Scientists, artists, teachers, engineers. They wore clothing from every part of Earth showing humanity's diversity. On behalf of humanity, Jiho said clearly, we accept membership in this council. We promise to use our strength to protect the weak, our persistence to solve difficult problems, and our creativity to build bridges between species. We come not as conquerors, but as students eager to learn from your ancient wisdom. The council members made various gestures of approval. Some clapped. Others glowed brighter. One species released pleasant-smelling chemicals into the air. It was a celebration, cautious but genuine. Then came the first test. It came sooner than anyone expected. 2 weeks after humanity's acceptance into the council, a distress signal arrived from a mining colony in the contested reaches. The Krell had attacked again. 3 ships had raided the colony, taken supplies, and injured several workers. The colony was calling for help, but they knew the Council's peacekeeping forces would take weeks to arrive, and even then, they probably couldn't stop the Krell. The Council held an emergency session. The debate was brief. Everyone knew what needed to happen. They looked at the human delegation. Jiho stood up. We'll go. Give us the coordinates, just like that, asked a nervous counselor. You don't need time to prepare? To plan? Minho smiled slightly. Humans are pretty good at adapting quickly. It's kind of our thing. The human peacekeeping vessel left council space the next day. It was called the Endurance, a name chosen specifically to remind everyone of humanity's greatest strength. The ship wasn't the biggest or the most heavily armed in the council fleet, but it was tough, redundant systems throughout, designed to take damage and keep functioning. It was built like a human, built to survive. Captain Subin commanded the Endurance. She was a career military officer with 20 years of experience in Earth's naval forces. Her crew was small, just 40 people, but each one was highly trained and experienced. They knew what they were doing. The journey to the contested reaches took 5 days. During that time, Subin studied everything the Council had on the Krell. They were a warrior species from a high-gravity world, though not as high as Earth's. They valued strength and respected only those who could defeat them in combat. Diplomacy was seen as weakness. Peace was seen as surrender. They sound like historical humans, observed Lieutenant Doyen, Subin's second-in-command. Back when we thought violence solved everything. Maybe that's why we're the right ones for this job, Subin replied. We understand that mindset because we used to have it, and we learned to move past it. The Endurance arrived in the contested reaches and immediately detected Krell warships. There were 6 of them, large and aggressive-looking vessels covered in weapons. They were currently surrounding the mining colony, clearly planning another raid. Subin opened a communication channel. She had the message translated into the Krell language. This is Captain Subin of the Earth vessel Endurance. You are ordered to leave this system immediately and cease all hostile actions against Council territories. This is your only warning. The response came quickly. A Krell war chief appeared on the screen. He was massive, covered in thick scales and scars. His eyes were filled with contempt. Earth? Never heard of it. Leave now, little ship, before we add you to our collection of defeated enemies. I'll take that as a no, Subin said calmly. She closed the channel and looked at her crew. All hands, battle stations. Let's show them what humans can do. The Krell ships attacked first, just as Subin expected. They fired their weapons with overwhelming force, the kind of assault that would have destroyed most Council vessels in seconds. The Endurance's shields flared bright as they absorbed the hits, but the shields held. The ship rocked from the impact. Crew members grabbed onto their stations, but the Endurance kept flying. Subin watched the damage reports scroll across her screen. Hull integrity at 87%. Shields recharging. All systems functional. Return fire, she ordered. Target their weapons systems. Disable, don't destroy. The Endurance's weapons were precise. Human targeting computers designed by species that had been making war for thousands of years didn't miss. The first Krell ship lost its main cannons within seconds. The second lost its shield generators. The Krell war chief looked shocked. His ships were being taken apart methodically, professionally. This wasn't how battles usually went for the Krell. Usually their enemies panicked and fled or got destroyed quickly. This small ship was fighting back effectively. He ordered his ships to focus all fire on the Endurance. All 6 Krell warships concentrated their weapons on the human vessel. The space around the Endurance lit up with explosions and energy weapons. It was an incredible amount of firepower, and the Endurance flew through it. The shields failed. The hull took direct hits. Armor plating was torn away, but the ship kept fighting. Every time the Krell damaged one system, backups activated. When the main weapons were hit, secondary batteries took over. When the engines were damaged, auxiliary power kicked in. Subin opened the channel again. Her ship was smoking and damaged, but she was smiling. Is that all you've got? Humans can do this all day. We're really good at taking hits and keeping going. How long can you sustain this level of fire? The question hit the Krell war chief like a physical blow. His ships had expended 60% of their ammunition. The human ship was damaged but still fully combat capable, and the human captain sounded almost bored. For the first time in his life, the war chief felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. This wasn't a battle he could win through simple aggression. The humans weren't afraid. They weren't running. They were built to endure, and they would keep fighting until either they won or both sides destroyed each other. Lieutenant Doyen reported from weapons control. Captain, we've disabled 4 of their ships. The other 2 are backing off. Hail them again, Subin ordered. When the channel opened, the war chief looked different, less arrogant, more thoughtful. What kind of species are you? He asked. We're human, Subin replied simply. We come from a world that makes yours look gentle. We learned a long time ago that the strongest warrior isn't the one who wins every fight. It's the one who protects others and knows when to show mercy. You have a choice now. Keep fighting, and we'll keep going until neither of us can continue, or we can talk like civilized beings. The war chief was silent for a long moment. Then he did something shocking. He lowered his weapons. I wish to speak with your leaders, your council. If they have warriors like you protecting them, perhaps they are not as weak as I believed. 3 weeks later, Jiho sat in a small cafe on one of the council's diplomatic stations. Across from her sat Vexthor. They were drinking tea, a human custom that the reptilian counselor had grown to appreciate. The Krell have agreed to a ceasefire, Vexthor said. They want to negotiate terms for peaceful trade. Captain Subin and her crew have been awarded the council's highest honor for peacekeeping. And do you know what the most interesting part is? What? Jiho asked, sipping her tea. The Krell war chief said he respected humans because you fought like his people, but showed mercy like the council species. He said humans are what the Krell might become if they ever learn to be more than just warriors. Jiho smiled. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way. Maybe we can help the Krell learn it too, without them having to nearly destroy themselves first. News of humanity's success spread quickly through the galaxy. The species from the Death World, the ones everyone had feared, had used their strength not to conquer but to protect. They had faced down a warrior species and won not through destruction, but through endurance and wisdom. More requests came in. A colony needed help with a dangerous planetary situation. A trade route needed protection from pirates. A species facing environmental collapse needed human engineers who understood hostile environments. Humanity said yes to all of it. Minho, who had become the human liaison for cultural exchange, started a program bringing young people from different species to Earth. He wanted them to see that yes, Earth was dangerous, but it was also beautiful. Humans had learned to love their harsh world and protect it. That same love and care could extend to the entire galaxy. 6 months after humanity joined the Council, Jiho received a personal message from Vexthor. It was simple and heartfelt. Thank you for proving that the most dangerous predator in the galaxy can also be the most loyal friend. The Council was right to fear what humanity could become, but we were wrong about what humanity chose to be. Jiho saved the message. Years later, when humanity had become a full member of the Council, when human peacekeepers protected dozens of worlds, when human teachers and doctors and engineers worked alongside hundreds of species, she would read it again and smile. Earth's real name in the ancient records would always be Death World Omega 7, but humanity had given it a new meaning. Not a warning, but a promise. A promise that those who survived the harshest conditions could be the kindest to others. That strength and compassion weren't opposites, but partners. And across the galaxy, species that had once feared humans now called them friends. The apex predators who learned to love had found their place among the stars. In her personal log that night, Jiho wrote one final entry about those early days. Counselor Vexthor asked today if humans miss Earth's challenges now that we travel among gentler worlds. I told him no. We carry Earth with us wherever we go. Its strength in our bodies, its persistence in our minds, its beauty in our hearts. We don't miss the challenges. We're just grateful we can use what they taught us to help others. She paused, then added one more line with a slight smile. Though I did have to explain to 3 different species today why humans voluntarily jump out of flying aircraft for fun. I think I made it worse. Some things about humanity will always be a little bit terrifying.